Hey there, greetings from Prog Monster. My name is Murph and I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock, hard heavy metal, and other rock genre musical info. I'm having a hard time getting this stuff out today. Anyways, I'm doing a musical interest top 10 today. This is now the fourth one I'll have done. This one is kind of special to me in that I tend to think of myself as a drummer. However, that depends on who you're talking to. Yes, you were to ask my mother, she would have said I just made a lot of racket all the time. Anyways, I'm looking forward to this one because this one will have the most impactful for me because I like drummers more than most other musicians, so I have a bigger list than normal. And actually, the list of my top 10 favorites, the top 5 weren't really too difficult. I kind of knew who they were going to be. That's the number 6 through about 20. Could have been anywhere, but since I'm only doing a top 10, that means there'll be quite a few honorable mentions today. And a lot of these honorable mentions could have been on the list. It just happens that I thought about it quite a bit today, and I thought, oh, these guys should be on there today. So that's the guys I chose. So the other thing about drummers that I quite like is that the ones I do like have been fairly prolific at producing records, which is nice because you get to hear them a lot. So how this is going to work today is because these are my favorites, and I'm not suggesting that these are the definitive best drummers of all time, because they're not. There are other drummers, and because there are other drummers in other genres that I'm not doing, but of course would fit in here if we were doing a definitive top 10 of all time. It would be a very different grouping, I think. But these are the ones I enjoy the most, and so they're my favorites. Simple as that. So the top 10. So how I'm going to do this is pretty much the way I've done it with the other videos. I'll start at number 10, work my way up to number 1, and then at the end I will give you the ones who could have made it but didn't quite make it, just based on today. That's it. Okay, so we'll start with number 10. A guy that many people won't think of, but I enjoyed his drumming when he was with this band. I think he was underrated in a lot of ways, and most people might not even know his name. His name is Michael DeRoser. He played with Heart back in the pretty much in the 70s and 80s before they turned into that kind of poppy band that they became. I think by that time a lot of the original guys and guys that they hired during the late 70s had all disappeared. But I like Michael DeRoser's playing. I think he was technically quite a bit better than most drummers in the position he was in, and he was pretty fast, and he played very well on most of the notable songs. So that's my number 10, Michael DeRoser from Heart. Number 9 shouldn't become as any surprise. Early on, he was one of the best drummers in this genre, and he pretty much stayed pretty consistent the entire time. I think their music got a little less drummy, if that's a term. So he didn't play as many different drum beats as he did early on. And that's because I think their music became a little bit heavier and then moved out into different genre as well. And I'm talking about Black Sabbath's Bill Ward. I love this guy's drumming, especially early on. He gets the nod as number 9 today. Number 8 is a drummer who also is a vocalist, and I didn't give a lot of points to drummers that could do both, but in his case I definitely liked his vocals quite a bit, and his drumming fit the style of this music quite a bit too. I'm talking about Gil Moore from Triumph. I don't think he's a great drummer. I think he's a good drummer, but he suited the music that Triumph played quite well. So number 7 replaced a very good drummer who died fairly early in his life. in his 40s. That's, to me, that's early. But this guy is as good as any drummer out there right now. Technically fast, very good, solid drummer. Can do a lot of stuff that you don't see a lot of drummers being able to do. And I'm talking about Todd Sucherman of Styx. The guy is a great drummer, man. I know John Panozzo was good, but I think this guy's a little bit better technically. And so I give him the nod as number 7 today. So number 6 should come as no surprise. Most people would probably put him quite a bit higher. I can't imagine very many rock people out there putting together any kind of drum list of any kind, whether it's their favorites or whether they think they're the best or whatever, and having a set of rock drummers. I can't imagine anybody not having this guy on their list, and that's John Bonham of Led Zeppelin. I mean, the guy is one of the most well-known drummers in rock history, for sure, and many people's top drummer. His ability to put triplets together and do some amazing stuff for Led Zeppelin. The fact that he was a heavy drummer too didn't hurt his cause. The thing about John Bonham too, in fact, that I hear a lot of this, but you know, he's a heavy drummer, and if you switch him up with this guy or that guy, you know, he's too heavy for them. The guy was a top drummer. I'm sorry, but he was a top drummer, and if you put him in any situation where he had to play drums a certain way, he would adjust. I am almost 100% certain of that. This guy, you don't get to the level of drumming that he is if you can't change your style for a certain thing. He didn't have to, though. He was part of one of the world's greatest rock bands. He wasn't going to have to play anywhere else, so he never had to show that. But if he'd gotten in a position where, say, he had to play with somebody like Genesis or something like that, he would have adjusted his style and he would have fit in perfectly, because a guy like that can do that. Great people can adjust themselves. A drummer with a certain heavy style who maybe not that great, he's going to have a hard time adjusting to playing Genesis stuff, because that's difficult stuff to play. Anyways, number 6 for me is John Bonham. Number 5, a guy who doesn't get much attention, but should, because he's a fantastic drummer, is Barlow Barrymore from Jethro Tull. This guy is just a fantastic drummer. All the stuff that he's done with Jethro Tull, you know, you listen to the drumming, just go back and listen to some of those longer, more in-depth proggy numbers, and you hear like how good of a drummer this guy really is. So he gets my number 5. He's been in my top 10 forever, maybe since I started really listening to Tull back in the turn of the century, and fantastic guy. Number 4, not only is he a great drummer, but he's an unusual drummer. This is a guy that a lot of drummers try to keep the rhythm and keep the beat in, and you know, maybe they do a little bit of fills and rolls and stuff like that. This guy was like if there's such a thing as a lead drummer, he was that guy. Always taking the middle ground and always tying everything together, and just coming up with some interesting beats, but a very notable drummer too. And not just that, an over-the-top personality, like, you know, and of course you know who we're talking about, Keith Moon of The Who. Like, this guy, just fantastic drummer. Lots of problems, of course, but you know, for The Who's style, he fit in perfectly. Could he have played other places? Yeah, I'm sure but he would have, unlike John Bonham, who could have adjusted and played with Genesis, he would have come in and taken over Genesis, and they would have had to change their music for him. So we're talking about Keith Moon, of course, number 4. Great drummer. Now the top 3, well, number 3 through 5, number 3 through 6, they can switch on a given day depending on my mood or what I'm listening to a lot of. But the top two, they've been the top two for 20, 40 years now, the two of them, and are number one and two, and have been that way for 40 years. But number three, a legendary drummer, played on some of the biggest albums, has played with a lot of different people. But I think he's most notable for his time in Rainbow, and that's Cozy Powell. I don't know what you can say about Cozy. Over the top, definitely. One of the best technical drummers out there, absolutely. He played a certain style of music, but he played it better than anybody, I think. He's gone. Most of the top drummers are gone now, which is really sad, really. I don't know. Some of the newer drummers I don't know as well, and I know I've heard them. I think they're pretty good, but I like to listen to guys' music and quite a bit of their music before they're going to make my list. But Cozy, fantastic drummer. I've heard him with just about everybody, Rainbow, Sabbath, some other people as well. I think he played with Dio, actually. Well, maybe I might be wrong there. Could be wrong there. I think I'm wrong there. Anyways, I'm going to move on to the top two now. Number two has been number two for 40 years. I love his drumming. I loved him with Yes. I love him with King Crimson. He just has a certain style I think is very suiting to their type of music. And he's not just a drummer, of course, he's also a percussionist. He's played with some of the best musicians in rock history, I think. And we're talking about Bill Bruford, of course. Now, Bill's retired, but I would love to drag him out and stick him with Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson and maybe a couple of other people and put something completely different together. But I really dig Bill Bruford quite a bit. Obviously, he's number two. So number one shouldn't come as any surprise to anybody, based on if you know my favorite band and everything. You're going to know that it's Neil Peart. Technically speaking, he's one of the best drummers in the world. He's very fast, very good, intricate music roll. He can do those triplets very well. People say, yeah, but he would have a hard time playing in a John Bonham setting or in a heavier drum band setting, and I think they're wrong. I think for the same reason that John Bonham could play in a band like Rush, like people saying, yeah, but he doesn't have the percussion. You don't know that. They don't use percussion much on Led Zeppelin. But the drumming part, both of these drummers could adjust either way, I'm sure of it. And Neil Peart, he would go to Led Zeppelin, and I'm pretty sure that he would play John Bonham's style. Maybe not as good as John Bonham, but he could hold his own for sure. There's no doubt about it. But anyways, even without that, like, his stuff in Rush is legendary. His solo pieces are inventive and imaginative. I've enjoyed just about everything he's done with Rush from the beginning. I like the stuff he did on Fly By Night. I love that little Nar Pits and Die Pits, or whatever it's called, on Caress of Steel. Even the stuff on Tom Sawyer, which of course is completely overplayed, but he's just a fantastic drummer, and his solo stuff is that stuff of legends. This guy could rival all the drummers in all genres, I think. So there you have it, my top 10 drummers in rock history. I'll go over them one more time from top to bottom, and then give you all my honorable mentions. I have quite a few honorable mentions. There's a lot of drummers that are, I think, really good and deserving of attention. So number one is Neil Peart from Rush. Number two is Bill Bruford, formerly of Yes and King Crimson. Number three is the late Cozy Powell, legend. Number four, Keith Moon of The Who. Number five, Barlow Barrymore, that's a tongue twister, from Jethro Tull. Number six, John Bonham from Led Zeppelin. Number seven, Todd Sucherman from Styx. Number 8, Gilmour from Triumph. Number 9, Bill Ward from Black Sabbath. Number 10, Michael DeRosier from Heart. Now, my honorable mentions include, of course, the other Yes drummer, the one that's been there a lot longer, Alan White. Not nearly, I think, as technically savvy as Bill Bruford, but definitely can play what needs to be played to make Yes music the way it is. Great drummer. Phil Collins, of course, underrated, I think, as a drummer, much more known as a vocalist, but certainly if you listen to some of that classic Genesis stuff, he's very technically sound drummer. John Panazzo, of course, he's the one that mastered all that original stick stuff, which was really quite good. Maybe if he'd stayed in the band, Todd Zuckerman's name wouldn't be up there, but he's gone now. Rest in peace, John. But another great drummer. Vinny Appice, fantastic. Actually, I didn't mention his brother on my list here, Carmen Appice, but I think they're both pretty solid drummers, and have done a lot of fairly notable stuff too. Anton Fig, if for nothing other than his stuff with Ace Frehley on his solo album, I loved it. Peter Criss, not the greatest technical drummer in history, but he was one of the most memorable, notable type glamour rock bands. You couldn't not notice them. There's no way you couldn't notice them. And I give Peter Criss a little bit of love there too. Nico McBrain from Iron Maiden, great drummer. Alex Van Halen, shot in the shadow of his brother Eddie, but still a great drummer. Brian Downey from Thin Lizzy, gotta love him. Carl Palmer, I don't really like ELP, and I really didn't care for some of the Asia stuff, but you gotta make a note of Carl Palmer. The guy is a fantastic drummer. Tommy Aldridge, loved his stuff. Great drummer too. Mitch Mitchell from the Hendrix Experience, a young drummer at the time, but I wish Mitch had done other stuff with other groups. I think he was underrated, or he wasn't underrated, but he just never did anything other than the Hendrix stuff, and which is to me a bit of a loss. He was a great drummer, and of course, maybe not the greatest technical drummer, but played on all of their albums. And we're talking about Ian Pace of Deep Purple. I think he played with Whitesnake. I might be wrong there. Maybe he didn't. I don't think he did, but he did play all that stuff with Deep Purple. I like his music quite a bit. He's a pretty good drummer too. There's some others that probably I've missed here that I'm not thinking of right now, but those are the ones that came to mind, and notable mentions. And there you have it, my honorable mentions for my top 10 favorite drummers of all time. So if you like this video, like it in below. Give me your list of your top 10 drummers. Maybe there'll be somebody in there I said, oh yeah, I forgot all about him. And go back and listen to some of his stuff as well. And subscribe if you want me to do more of this stuff. So I'm going to stick with a bit of a theme this week because I started out with this video on drums. I'm going to continue by giving a couple of look back albums to my top 2 drummers. And of course you'll know that that's a Yes and a Rush album. And I think I'm going to probably do their seminal albums. So and get some more love for these 2 drummers. And then I may do a live album at the end of the week, a live history album, and I have a feeling I know what I'm going to be doing there too. So anyways, I hope you have a great day. This is Prog Monster, out.